So I was listening to this Duncan Robinson podcast yesterday. We read you the quote
You rats
yesterday.
off a ship on dunks.
I'm not rats off a ship on
Okay,
dunks. I mean,
all
like
right.
first of all, I built the Duncan Robinson ship. Like let's say flat out. When the guy was wearing number 62 in summer league, like I was telling you guys, this guy was going to be a thing.
What a number.
I'm telling you.
62.
So I feel a certain kinship with Dunks. You know, like we had him at media day before he was even a thing. Like before he was a starter, we had him on. We had
Yep.
two Michigan greats, Leroy Horde and Duncan Robinson. You know,
Yep.
all that type of stuff. So, I'm listening to this podcast yesterday. I was curious to see what he had to say. Didn't do exit media day. So we haven't really heard from Duncan Robinson in a while. It's, because the way it works in today's NBA, there's no locker rooms and, there's nobody who can really go up to Duncan Robinson unless you see him at Starbucks. Like you can't really go up to Duncan Robinson. They give you 3 players a game. And typically those are, usually are the best performers of the game. They don't usually have a guy who played 4 minutes out there talking to the media. So it's been a while since we heard from Duncan Robinson. And I thought it was, first of all, I found it interesting because he goes from we knew that going into these playoffs, his role was going to be significantly different because they had made the switch towards the end of the season of putting Max Strus in the starting lineup. This guy had basically been the starter for 3 straight seasons. He had been the starter basically since Jimmy Butler got here. Right. Duncan Robinson has been starting for the Miami Heat. And then goes to this place where he's on the bench, but the playing time is slipping away little by little. So he was talking a lot about the idea of how hard it was to go from playing in that game 1 of the Hawks series where he lit it up. He was 8 of 9 from downtown. It was crazy. He scored, I think, 27 points in that game. Mm-hmm. And then the next game is playing 7 minutes. And, just talked about like it really seemed to really get into his head. Like he really had a tough time dealing with that it went from I have this epic shooting performance to all of a sudden the minutes are going away little by little. You could just see that was kind of the trend. Like the rest of the series, what did he play? He played 23 minutes in game 1. 21, 30, played 43 minutes the rest of the series. Played 7 minutes, 14 minutes, 9 minutes, 13 minutes.
Right.
So it was just going away, wilting away little by little. And then in the Sixers series, didn't play again until game 4 in the series.
Right.
So he was just getting, pretty much eradicated. And he was saying that, these Sixers players were coming up to him in the middle of the series, asking him if he was hurt, if something was wrong. But it was just the case of the Miami Heat going in another direction. They were not going in this shooting direction. And I do remember, like, there were, it was game 3 or 4 where the Miami Heat, like, they were building a brick house. Like, the Heat's shooting was not good this playoffs. And there were times where people were wondering, like, hey, how come we're not putting Duncan Robinson out there? How come they're not going in this direction? But I think we kind of knew, like, Spo was definitely going in a defensive setting, a defensive mindset. That is where they thought they were going to win these games, is stopping teams, getting stops, turning the teams over.
Even more so when you weren't making buckets.
Sure, yeah. Yeah. So there were a couple things that stood out to me. Like he says that his motivation is going to be at an all-time high because he doesn't want this to happen again going into next season. No problem with him saying that. Like, that's natural. Now, he did say at one point in the podcast something to the effect of, I don't have the exact quote, but it was something to the effect of he believes that he adds an element to the Heat that makes them harder to defend. That because of the way he runs around and he makes things chaotic, that the Heat become much simpler to defend with him not out there. And that had been suggested to him, and his co-host said that had been suggested to him by NBA people, that the Miami Heat so much easier to guard with no Duncan Robinson out there. And at that point, I was like a little bit like, all right, dude.
Well, it's true to the extent of, because you got to chase him around.
Yeah, I get it.
The problem is if he doesn't make the shot, now you give the other team the advantage because he then has to play defense. If he makes shots, then his offense is going to make up for his lack of defense.
Right. And the other thing is, like, you look at his numbers, and it's funny. I was looking at his stats, and you see that he shot 38% from 3 in the playoffs. You're like, Yeah, it's pretty good. That's Duncan Robinson. But then you got to take into account, first of all, like how little he played. And then if you took out that 8 for 9 from game one of
Well, you
the,
can't do that. That
oh, you
counts.
definitely,
It
okay.
counts.
But Leroy, if you took out the 8 for 9 from what his true playoff, because that was not indicative of what his playoff role was.
Right. But let's put it this way. If I said, man, if we take out that one loss to Tampa, we'd have been undefeated that season.
Fine. Well, after his, fine. If you want to do it like that, then after his 8 for 9, he was 10 for 38, which is 26%.
Okay. There you go.
So he, that was, it was started off in the mountaintop, went down, and talked about there was, the toughness of, the Heat weren't shooting threes and they just throw him out there and expect him to hit the 3-pointers. And I'm just kind of sitting at it, listening to it. Like, I get the challenge that he's going through in that, but also like, yeah, like if you're going to be out, if they have thought that you're on diminishing returns so much on defense that if you don't go out there and you don't make shots, like what is Duncan Robinson? Like, I get all this whole like theory of the Heat putting out there saying, he stretches the floor and all that type of stuff. But if you're not shooting like an elite shooter, then what do you got? You just have a guy?
Here's the problem that I have with this is that Dunks wasn't playing because of defense. Okay. You can put whatever twist you want on it, making shots or whatever. Okay. But once you take him out, to put in a shooter and demand that they do something to make you want to keep playing them, that's tough as a shooter when your success rate is below 50% anyway. So Duncan may have an 8 for 9, but it doesn't mean he's going to go 4 for 5 or 3 for 6 every time he touches the floor. And so it probably was frustrating for him when everybody says they understand how shooting is, but they're penalizing him for not understanding how shooting works.
Yeah, but the thing is that that's literally the only place where he's making an impact, though. Like it's not like it's not like
shooting
like
is
Victor,
shooting, no.
Yeah, but here's the thing: like Victor Oladipo, you could put out there, and if Victor Oladipo throws up a 3 for 18, but he's shutting down Jason Tatum, or he's shutting down James Harden, or he's getting steals, like
exactly,
like you got to find other ways to contribute. And that's the thing where it's like when Pat Riley says, well, this message has been delivered to him time and time and time again. So if he's not shooting elite and he can't defend, you got to make choices. You have to make tough choices about where those minutes are going to go in the postseason.
But here's the other thing is that if you put all that aside and you even are okay with the explanation that Dunks gives, Spo and Pat Riley will tell you he wasn't playing because we needed more of a defensive presence on the other end of the court. And that's why Max Strus started playing, because he wasn't shooting the ball much better. But it's that added element of being able to play better defense while still giving the threat of a three-pointer. Even though you might not shoot the three-pointer as good as the other guy, you can hold somewhat of your own on the other end. That's why he wasn't playing. I mean, everybody says, oh, he's not making shots. He's not making shots. Nobody was making shots at points during the postseason.
No, the Heat's shooting was not good.
But add that with his inability to play enough defense to keep him on the floor, that's what the issue was. He can sit here and talk about all of the issues being, about not being able to get into a rhythm and not being able to do this. What about 2 fouls in 1.3 minutes? Right? So that's the part that I concentrate on. And that's the part that Pat Riley concentrated on. That's the part Pat Riley talked about. He didn't talk about Duncan shooting at all. He talked about his ability to play defense. So you can put whatever twist you want on this whole situation with Duncan Robinson. The fact of the matter is the team, the Miami Heat, took him off the floor because of his defense. So the shooting aspect of it, they said, hey, Dunks may be a great shooter, but Strus might be a slightly above average shooter, and he plays defense, they decide to go that route.
Right. If you're going to sit here and you're going to tell me that, like, oh, if they're going to go out there and Max Strus and Duncan Robinson are going to go and shoot it out, like, yeah, you probably take Duncan Robinson. Like, the guy's incredible at shooting the 3-pointer.
Again, that's not why he wasn't on the
floor. But it's not an apples to apples thing. And
right.
Then say, well, I mean, I feel like it's made the Heat a much more easy team to defend. It's like, dude, they were shot from the NBA. Like, do we really believe that if Duncan Robinson was playing more, that the Heat would be in the NBA Finals? They would have won that series. They would have won the series against the Celtics quicker.
I would look at it
like that's when I hear those complaints from him, like, oh, I feel like I could have really contributed to winning. Like, I get the confidence, good. I think a lot of people on that Heat roster probably feel that way. I think Markieff Morris probably feels that way. I feel like there's a bunch of people who are accomplished who probably feel like they could have been the difference. But ultimately, the detriments to this Heat team wasn't the lack of playing Duncan Robinson. It was health, and it was and health. Really, I mean, they were a shot away from being in playing last night.
Right. Well, the thing is that, like, you can make it about shooting, but it's not. Right? We all know that. Dunks has to accept that, so that his improvement, and keep in mind, like, he's an older player, but he still he hasn't reached his prime yet in the NBA. He's just going to be a little bit later because he started later. But he can make it sound like he didn't have, like I said, he can make it sound like he wasn't in rhythm and he didn't get any constant minutes, and he provides another dynamic to the Heat's offense. He's 100% accurate. However, okay, if you can't stop anybody, and we know you're not going to go 8 for 9 every night, that puts the team in a dilemma because they're trying to figure out, how can we win this game?
Right.
So I see why.
But look, I think the idea of, like, oh, I've been put in a tough spot because now I'm given these short bursts to go and make shots. Like, well, dude, I'm sorry that you've gotten to the point where you feel marginalized like that. Victor Oladipo was given those same spots in that Hawks series and turned it into being a regular rotational player for the team.
Though different players, though.
I don't care, though, but that's the point, Leroy. He made the most of his opportunity, and he turned it into they couldn't take him off the floor.
Because of defense, though. I mean, you can't hear. Let's not make it sound like you can just.
But if he's okay, but I get you. So if you are a shooter and you get paid as an elite shooter, which he does, right, and he comes out and even in those small windows can't nail a 2 for 3 from downtown to keep spelling, be like, all right, Dunks is kind of getting it going. And the only time that he's getting red hot is in garbage time. Don't sit here and act like, well, the Heat have really put me in a tough spot. All right, dude. Yeah, so is Victor Oladipo. His leg didn't work to start the season.
But it's different because Victor didn't have to score to impact the game.
But that's
Dunks. Look, we're making it sound like you can just all of a sudden decide to play defense. Sometimes it's not your skill set.
I'm not asking him to come out and play defense. I'm asking him to come out and hit shots. And he's saying, like, well, it's a tough thing to ask me to come out and hit shots. Well, then what do we have you here for, dude?
Grow up, Peter Pan.
Grow up, Peter Pan.
Let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
So they should just throw Dunks in a game at any point in time, and he should just go 4 for 5? Who does that?
He should no, but here's the thing. If you're going to go out there and you're going to clank it and you're going to shoot 25% from 3 all of a sudden after being told, oh, it's tough. Well, okay, then then what am I supposed to do? Oh, should I wait till game 6? Like, when will you be warmed up, Duncan? Let me know.
No, but my question is that because the success rate of 3-point shooting is already below 50, below 40%, like, are we asking guys that shoot threes to come in a game and do something that, like, is not realistic?
This is what I would tell my child. Tough nuggets. If that's what you can do, if that's the only way you can, if you can only contribute, but if you can only contribute to the team by hitting threes, if you can't defend, if you can't get stops, if you can't get rebounds, then in these short microwave bursts, you better hit your damn threes. Sorry. And then don't tell me, oh, it was put in a tough spot. Well, you saw the tough spot coming, dude.
Like, it's like, I feel like this argument is the same argument I used to have with A-Rod versus Jeter, in that people would say A-Rod never hit in the clutch, but Jeter was Mr. Clutch because he hit those singles, right? A-Rod was a home run hitter. So if 1 out of every 5 or 6 bats was his average, which is good, you can't necessarily be mad if he went, 0 for 10.
No, you cannot be mad at it, but don't be like, whoa, you put me in a tough spot. Well, you don't have anything else to contribute. It'd be like a middle reliever coming in, and you bring him in there, and he's giving up meatballs. You'd be like,
oh, you calling him Bender?
You can't go out. You can't expect me to come in and strike people out.
Bender?
I'm calling him Reniel Pinto.
Oh no! What about Bell? Heath Bell. He used to complain too.
I'm not going to put him in the Heath Bell category because I like Duncan Robinson, but I just think it's like you're being told I've been put in a tough spot. It's like, well, first of all, this is not a slow. This has not been an immediate shift. We saw that the role was diminishing, and then when the Heat are looking and saying, "Man, we really can't hit the broadside of a barn." Who do we have? Oh, we paid $90 million to that guy to hit threes. You think you can give us a couple? Nope. Building a brick house. Well, it's tough on me. Huh? You're talking Builder Robinson. You should be able to roll out of bed and hit me a three.
Really?
I should be able to. It should be like Bird Box, dude. I should be able to put the blindfold on him, and Duncan Robinson can hit threes.
I think you're marginalizing. I think you're marginalizing how difficult that job is.
Well, you want to know something?
The best of the best are like 38, 40%.
Dude, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear best of the best. Like, you're Duncan Robinson.
You're supposed to be the best.
You're supposed to be the best. If you're going to be on your podcast calling yourself a top 3 shooter in the world, top 3 shooter in the world, I should be able to give him 10 minutes. He should hit me 2 threes.
Now, here's I will say this. Okay, I'm defending dunks because I do not marginalize how difficult it is and what the percentages are in making threes. That being said, if he had just stayed level with his career numbers, he would still be playing. It dropped.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, but understand this. If he's doing well, he's making 3 or 4 out of 10, right? If he doesn't get the 10 shots, I don't know how many threes you need to shoot so you can get a good idea of a percentage, right? But if you go in there and throw him in to shoot 2 threes,
you owe me.
And you're expecting him to make 1 of the 2, like that's asking a bit much.
Is it? Is it? Yes. Really? It's he's the best shooter in the world. You can't make 1 of 2?
That's not the way these averages work.
You know what?
Again, I'm saying this without really knowing this fact. How many threes do you shoot a game before you get an idea of whether a guy's off or not?
Him? I feel like a good Duncan Robinson night right away.
So after like 1 or 2 shots,
I feel like third attempt, I know if Duncan Robinson's got it or not.
Because that would be the equivalent if I got 5 carries and they said, "Oh, you haven't broke a long one."
Big spoon.
You really said that.
What did you say?
Buy a little spoon.
Buy a little spoon.
Wow.
Yeah, that's adorable.
So, like, I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying.
In those 5 carries, those first 5 carries, let's say you break 1 of them for 15. I feel like, he's going to have a good game. Even if every other of those carries was like 2-3 yards.
But tell me you haven't heard this in football, right? He's getting pounded. He's pounded in the first half, but he's wearing them down. And then when he gets around that 15th or 20th carry, then things start opening up because they get tired of tackling. Yeah, right? You hear that all the time. He gets stronger as the game goes on.
Duncan's
okay, but if during the course of a game, you took every running back and judged them off of their first 5 carries and said, he ain't doing nothing. And then you put another guy in. Like, I don't know if sports necessarily works like that. And there's a few spots where, like, for example, a hitter. We always pick and choose when a guy should get a hit. And I'm like, it's hard. You get a hit when you can.
Yeah, but don't strike out with the bases loaded, dude.
Okay, but
you're a star, you're not a star. Are you good at what you do? You're not.
But
don't come at me and say, oh, but he's a 200 hitter. Or he's a 250 hitter.
You're taking the situation and making that have precedence over.
Yeah, you're right. Welcome to sports.
Numbers.
Yeah, welcome to sports, Peter Pan.
But it's not real.
Here's the brochure. Here's the brochure. Do things when it's hard.
90 million.
Here's my tour. Let me know.
Okay, if a guy shoots 40% from 3, are we going to then nitpick when he makes the 40 out of 100?
Yes. Yes, I will.
Really?
Yes, I will.
You think he didn't want to make 100 of 100?
I don't care.
We will always fight about this.
That's fine.
Because I'm a realist and you're a fan.
That's fine. I don't deny that. I don't deny that. But don't sit here crying about, oh, it's so hard to make these threes in this tough spot. Dude, you are the best at this in the world. Don't tell me it's hard. Go out there and tell Spo. You know what you do? Hold on. Let me tell you something right now. Okay? There was at one point you were taking buses from Sioux Falls to Miami. I think they took buses. And you
dude.
No, they
did. This is the 50s.
You grabbed that situation by the jugular and you made your threes when it mattered, okay? And we called you one of the best three-point shooters on the planet. And then all of a sudden you're going to tell me, "Oh, it's hard to come in with 12 minutes because you can't make 2 out of 3." Dude, come on. Highest contract ever given to an undrafted player. Don't tell me that you can't get out of the slums. You can't get out of hard.
Dunk should make 2 of 3.
He should be able to give me 2 or 3 whenever I ask. Okay.
So he should be shooting 66%. Do you realize how ridiculous you sound?
If he's giving me if he's shooting 10, that's 1.
My good. You are digging. Oh my goodness.
J-Fig's yelling.
You are literally a fan with good access.
I am not. I am a journalist.
28 hours, Sioux Falls to FTX Arena.
Wait. And this is what we got. You're talking about a shooter supposed to make 2 or 3, and he's giving us actual stats on how far the bus drive is from Sioux Falls.
He's been in tougher, dude. Don't tell me about tougher spots. You were in Sioux Falls. Don't tell me that you haven't been in tough spots. Oh, it's hard. I gotta hit a couple of threes in a game 3 because yeah, dude. Guess what? I need you. You know what? When Lenny Harris came up in a pinch hit, you know what he did? He got that pinch hit. That's why he's all time.
He's all time because he did it the most.